Welcome to the Lay Low Pod, the podcast that keeps it real while you figure things out. I'm Erin, and let's lay low. If you're in a season of becoming where life doesn't look how it used to, but not quite how it will, you're in the right place. Sometimes to grow, you have to lay low. Hello. Thank you for coming to Lay Low with me today. We have our very first guest who is not a chick. Okay. I'm going to just start right there. I want to introduce you to my friend Ed Terris. We actually met at work. We both have offices in the same office building. So I'm excited for him to be here, though, because he's the first male guest. And what do you think, Ed, before we even get into things? I've been really surprised that there are a lot of males who love the podcast. Tons. Friends of mine that I know really well, and also people that I don't know very well, acquaintances, and even just strangers that have found it. And what do you think it is about men listening to some chick who just yap? So what is it?
I usually just listen to it. It resonates through the microphone and you're relatable and vulnerable. And what dude doesn't like a cute girl that shares her story?
Well, hopefully you guys like me more than just because I'm cute. Hopefully I'm smart too.
You kind of make it a safe place and relatable to not just chicks, but also the dudes.
I think the men need to have support too. And I think maybe women are more open to getting some of that self-help type thing. Even my kid, anytime I start talking about therapy on the podcast, he zones out. And I was just like, it doesn't have to be that way. But whatever the reason it is, I'm glad that there are a lot of great guys here that are getting some tips or little insights that can maybe help them out. So I'm glad. I'm excited that you're one of my first guests. You were one of the first people that I talked to about coming on. Well, first off, Ed, before we get into that, today is a holiday here in Utah. If you don't know, the 24th of July in Utah is our state holiday. It's the day we celebrate the Mormon pioneers coming to this empty valley and building up Salt Lake City. So it's our big holiday here. Are you a Pioneer Day or are you a Pie and Beer Day? Because the state is pretty divided. If you're Mormon, you celebrate Pioneer Day. If you are not Mormon or ex-Mormon, you celebrate Pie and Beer Day. So after this podcast, I'm headed downtown. I'm going to find some beer. I'm going to find some pie. I'm going to find some trouble maybe. But it's definitely a Pie and Beer Day for me. What about you?
Yeah, so that's actually the first time I've ever heard of it. So I must be a Pioneer Day kind of.
Are kidding? Well, you're from Utah County. Maybe that's why you only know Pioneer Day. Maybe so.
Yeah, and my roots are the Mormon with the parents and family. And so I've actually never even heard of it. So that's interesting. And I'll never be able to look at it any other way than those two options, it sounds like.
Okay. So you're celebrating Pioneer Day. Are you active in the Mormon church right now, would you say?
No, I'm not. The difference between religion and spirituality, and kind of leaned more into the spirituality part of it. But having my kids every other weekend, they like to go to church with my mom. And so I fully support it.
Okay. I want you to just tell us a little bit about yourself. You were born and raised in Utah County.
Yeah. So I lived in one house from when I was born until about 10 years old in Orem. Then we just moved over one city to Linden, where then I ended up going to a different high school. And so we all kind of like went to the same junior high, but then split into different high schools. I knew a lot of people because of, I feel like that, the people that ended up going to the one high school and they met new people and I still had relationships with them and lived close to them.
Okay. And for people who are not in Utah, most of the state has a very strong Mormon connection, except for Salt Lake City, the actual valley, which is where I live. And I honestly don't even think about the church much because I don't really know anybody who goes to church here in Salt Lake. I think Salt Lake is very much a low percentage of active Mormons, but outside of Salt Lake City, it's very prevalent. And Ed grew up in Utah County, which is where I would say the heart of the Mormon church is, because that's where BYU is. And I think so many people go to BYU and then they end up staying there. So even though the headquarters of the Mormon Church is in Salt Lake City, I kind of look at Utah County as the heart of the Mormon Church. Would you agree with me?
It's definitely, prevalent, but I feel like, and it might be just like the older that I get or just the way times are going, it used to be a lot stronger and more prevalent in Utah County, but it's starting to kind of get that similar Salt Lake feel. But definitely, I know exactly what you're talking about. And it's funny because we call it the point of the mountain where kind of the two counties divide. And I've heard people joke before that you can fill the bubble of going into Salt Lake County and getting out of that bubble. And then when you're coming into Utah County, you kind of go into that bubble of that Mormon culture that's pretty strong down here.
So today we're going to talk about something that's very vulnerable. And I want to just start this out that I'm glad Ed is here because it's a topic that literally every single family deals with. Maybe there's some that don't. It's definitely something that is big here in Utah. The reason we're talking today is about your journey through an addiction and overcoming that addiction and changing your whole life. And I only know you as the guy that beats me to the office, the guy that always has the smile on his face, the guy that loves Mammoth hockey, who works his butt off in sales. And I only know that part of you. And I have to say, when I did find out a little bit of your background, I had no idea because you seem like you're in such a great place. You're very high energy, good energy, but I know it hasn't always been the case for you on that. So we're going to be talking about kind of your story of kind of what happened from growing up in the Mormon church in the middle of Utah County and going through your story. And I want to be honest, there will be parts of your story that might resonate with me in ways. And I'm going into this where I don't even know what I'm going to share about my experience with addiction. When people ask me why I got divorced, I always just blame it on the Mormon church, honestly, because it's the easiest answer. I can say I didn't want to be Mormon anymore and he was Mormon, and that was just the divide. But the truth is, addiction was a part of my divorce and the end of my marriage. And I know talking to you, there's going to be things that are going to pop up in my head. I do want this to be a place where you can heal, I can heal, and hopefully the people who have gone through this in their own family, whether it's themselves or a child or a parent or a friend, it's just one of those things that it affects all of us, but nobody talks about it. And I know your story is going to help people today. So I just wanted to say thank you. I really don't know a lot of the story. So I want you to kind of dig in. At what point did the addiction kind of start? And what are you able to share kind of like what it was? Because I think as a mom too, I'm always on the lookout. I want to keep my kids protected, but I also know there's so many crazy things out there.
It's an interesting perspective, kind of where you're coming from it and kind of what you've been through. And, there's always a lot of questions and everyone always wants the answers, but it's really hard because it's like almost like a case by case thing. But the longer that I've kind of been in it and the older that I've gotten, I've realized that it's basically a part of everyone's life in one way or another. It just depends on how close that situation is to you. I feel like my parents and I both went into it and were so naive and had no clue of what was going on or what was happening or that it was even possible or all these things. And then from, kind of start to now, the amount of growth and things that we've learned about each other and ourselves and our relationships and other people and other families and just how this can affect so many people. It's kind of, a beautiful thing how far my family and myself have come because of the choices and decisions that I made to kind of help us all grow. Sports is a big part of my life and played baseball, basketball, and football all growing up. I went snowboarding and ended up breaking my arm. And I feel like that's kind of the big turning point of where it all started. I wanted to be a professional athlete, and I really didn't even care what sport. All growing up, it was like seeing these athletes and like hearing about like, oh, you don't smoke and you don't drink and you don't do all these things, where they were probably doing that on the side, but it was like this kind of picture that they painted of like a healthy body to be able to do your sport, and then kind of coming up from the Mormon church of also that healthy body and not really doing those kind of things. And so it was all just kind of taken away from me at that point, where my hopes and dreams and goals, I tried to be the best at everything I do. So I tried to be the best at sports when I was in that world. And then the friend group changed, and I don't know how that merge happened or why I chose where I chose, but then the partying scene of still being kind of naive in high school. And I've heard through all that I've gone through that a lot of people start a lot earlier than I do, even though I feel like I started kind of early, but it was kind of late for what I've heard from other people.
When you said you broke your arm, my first thought was, did he have any kind of painkiller? Did he have anything that started the road from an injury? Because that is so typical in these situations where somebody has an injury, have a legit need for a prescription, and then it's just something that they can't get off of. And I just think that's really sad.
Yeah, and that's really interesting that, that's kind of like the norm and that happens quite often. But honestly, like with me, my mom was like managing it, and like I was in so much pain that like it wasn't being like abused. It all started with marijuana. I remember like fighting the urge for so long and then just kind of giving in. I was in this new group and just trying to like fit in. The first couple times it didn't work. And then I remember when it did work. And then I was like, oh, like, this is fun. This is great. It started there. And then there was like some pills introduced, but I still don't feel like it was like, I don't remember that being like the connector. And then the alcohol. And so I feel like it was the marijuana and alcohol that kind of got the ball rolling.
Interesting. So I am a marijuana user. I have my medical card. That's just part of who I am. I used to hear when I was younger that marijuana is not addicting and marijuana is not a gateway drug. And I remember when my son Colt told me that it was a gateway drug, and I did a lot of research about it, and I decided if I was going to have this in my life, that I was going to have these tolerance breaks where I was going to make sure that I had times of the year where I had a window that I wasn't using it, just so that I could keep myself kind of grounded that way. It was a boundary that I set with myself that I have done. And I will tell you, when I do those tolerance breaks, it's freaking hard and it is addicting. Like, you realize that it is a drug, and we do need to talk about that. And even though it is legal and, people have legit reasons why they use it, here in Utah, we have medical, but it's still something that can lead to addiction and habits that are going to change parts of your life, might impact decision making, and really can affect your life. Looking back, what were some of the early warning signs? Because you were experimenting with marijuana and alcohol, which, let's be honest, Ed, lots of people do. I did in high school. I think I smoked weed and drank the first time at 15. What do you think impacted the change from just experimenting to going into some other things?
I bring it back to the kind of that naiveness, but seriously, Erin, I had no clue. Like, I really truly had no clue what it would lead to and what could come from it. I was just having fun. I'm kind of a extremist and kind of all or nothing. And so I talk about being, trying to be the best in sports. And so then I was the best in partying. And so then once I was in that lifestyle, then I wanted to drink more than everyone, and I wanted to find the drugs better than anyone and do all these things. And so it just kind of caught up to me a lot quicker than I expected. And, once the harder drugs got introduced into my life, it still wasn't a problem because there was money. that I, accumulated as this kid to feed this habit that I didn't even realize was a habit. And then once the money ran out is where I really truly realized that there was a problem. And I think it was like a Sunday where I wasn't able to get the stuff, the money, and then also, kind of like the rules in my home of like staying home on Sunday. And I was kind of like in that age where it was kind of like I'm starting to like be able to make my own decisions, but I was still living at home. I would say at least a year, if not longer, of doing this that had no clue that what was about to happen. And then it all happened on that day. And I was working for my dad and went into work that day and I couldn't physically do it. And I just remember calling my dad and letting him know that I was addicted to heroin, and the words coming out of my mouth, it's not like I was like thinking about what to say. It just like happened and I don't know how it happened. And then all of a sudden, like that was the moment where it all got real for me. And that's where like I feel like the real true journey started of the detoxes and the rehabs and the jail and all the things.
I love that you went to them and told your dad, because that was a cry for help, whether you realized it at the time or not. But when you can be honest enough to tell somebody who you respect and love, I mean, a parent is that ultimate person that we don't want to disappoint, right? That you went to him and told him you needed help. Like, there's so many people that were in your situation that can never do that because it's almost like they're lying to themselves for so long. And I do believe that lying and addiction are just two peas in a pod, because you can't be honest with your life if you know that you can't function without something. It's just they're so tied together, and the lying, from my experience, creates almost as much of a problem as the addiction. Did you go through that at all?
Yeah. And, also with like all that I've gone through and the people that I've met in kind of the same thing, that, I've heard and seen that not everyone had parents like mine that were always there. I had no other option but to tell my parents what was going on because I was so scared. And I was just this still little boy. I mean, I was like 18, maybe 19 years old, but I had a relationship with such great parents that was where I turned. I had nowhere else to turn but them. And they were able to receive it and love their son enough to help him figure it out.
So you went to him. How did your dad react, and what steps went into place after that?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's something that I'll never forget. It was almost like I was just like going on autopilot and I just didn't know what was going on. He basically heard me and said, "Hey, go home." And then I'm pretty sure that in between the "K go home" and when I got home, that he had talked to my mom. They knew something was going on, but didn't know what and didn't know how big. And so then I went home and my mom was already on the phone trying to figure this out. My great parents that tried to figure it out and they didn't know what they were doing either. They had nowhere to turn, I don't feel like. And so I'm sure, so they got me into a detox facility and I don't think it was until the next day. And so it was all just kind of like that, just still unknown and miserable. And I went into the detox, did the whole thing. And I think it was like maybe a week at the longest, 4 or 5 or 6 days. And then I remember getting out of it and feeling ready to go and new and fresh. And I don't know what they were doing or what was going on because it was just kind of like cloudy. And I was just so foggy from what I had been putting into my body and what I was doing and not knowing what was going on. But I'll also never forget that when they picked me up, that, baseball was my life and my dad had mine and his, baseball gloves. And we went to a park and we played catch. And that's something I'll never forget as well. Um,
Your parents sound amazing, and I already know that I like your mom because she's adorable and she plays mahjong, so I know we're going to be friends. But Ed, there are so many parents who have been in that situation where they either caught their child or their child came to them, or they picked up their child in jail or something where they didn't know what to do. And I would even love, I mean, I'm going to manifest this, that I would love to have your mom on this podcast to talk about the side of a parent in addiction, because this is something we need to talk about. Families are going through this everywhere, and they need to have the support and not feel alone. And first, I just want to give your parents a big hug. I'm sure that had to have been extremely difficult, and something that my mom told me a long time ago. It was a time where my son was going through something difficult. And she said, as a parent, you are only as happy as your saddest child. And when you have a child going through an addiction, that means they were sad, they were depressed. I mean, they were in this with you, and your dad picking you up. And I can just picture that maybe he wanted to have this like organic, back to your roots, back to who you two are moment right out of the gate, where you could feel at home and safe and in good hands. And you left the rehab center thinking, okay, this is behind me and I'm not going to deal with drugs again. Is that kind of how it goes?
Yeah. Yeah. And once again, I'm still naive at that part because there's so much more that goes into it and work that needs to be done. And it was just kind of like a Band-Aid. And so it was still the same friends, still the same things. And so it just kind of gradually got there again, because doing and saying the right things and trying to be good, but still not even realizing what effect this had on me. I mean, and it almost 20 years that it had an effect on me. And
So you got married when you were mid 20s. Were you sober when you got married? Walk me through, and you don't have to go into detail, but walk me through getting married and starting a family. Was that something you were doing while you were sober or using?
I'm pretty sure I got out of jail. And so then, like, my mom
Well,
and
wait, you
dad both
can't
have,
just say that. You have to tell us. Wait. You got to go back. We don't know this. You got to tell us. You went to jail? Hello. We
yeah.
got to know that, Ed.
So,
I'm scared of jail. I've never been to jail. I'm terrified. I did have a friend in high school call me at like 6 a.m. with that, like, this is a paid phone call from jail. And I went and dealt with that. But I'm so scared of going to jail, Ed. I don't
well,
know
you're
why.
the
It's like,
person that we call when we're there, because Erin will come be call
yeah,
when we're there. You are
because I'm
that
going to be
person.
there. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes,
I
you
don't think
are.
many people have my phone number memorized, though.
Arrested, you can write down the numbers. They don't let you have a phone. So like when you get taken in, if you have your phone on you, then they give you a chance to write down numbers out of your phone, but they like
Oh
full
my
court
gosh.
press you on it.
I feel so much
Like, oh,
better.
you can
Like
have
this
two
might be
numbers. You can have three numbers. Yeah.
I feel so much better. I think that my
Who
biggest fear is
memorizes
like, I
numbers
don't
these
know.
days?
I don't know any phone numbers. Who am I going to do? So there are actually a couple people who have memorized phone numbers who I do it on purpose in case I ever go to jail, but I never want to go to jail. And I am the opposite of
Erin,
manifesting that.
they'll let you. I mean, it's never going to happen, but they'll give you a chance to go through your little phone. So don't worry about
Okay.
that.
Okay. I feel better. So I'm assuming, I was going to ask you what was rock bottom. I'm assuming now that I know you were in jail, was that rock bottom for you?
Yeah, I'd hit bottom a lot, but rock bottom happened my last time. And so there's just multiple stories and situations in my story where that happened. And so, yeah, at the time, I thought that jail, that was rock bottom. But it was just putting you in a room and locking the key. There was still a lot going on in my mind and in my body that wasn't fixed. And there was a hole that I kept trying to fill with something, right? I mean, it's been drugs, it's been gambling, it's been women, it's been, all these things that now I've been able to, like you mentioned earlier about like the whole detoxing and that time where you step away from the marijuana, where I'm able to notice now because of the work that I've put in, when things are getting out of control in my life, and I do have a very addictive personality. I mean, I don't miss the gym ever. I try to keep myself grounded and not let anything get out of control, because there's shopping addictions, there's sex addictions, there's religion addictions, there's all these different addictions where you're filling a void by being so immersed in what you're doing.
Now that you're sober, do you still think you have an addicting personality? You just try to pick
Yeah,
healthy things to be addicted to?
but I've just found that too much of anything is a bad thing. I try to keep adding things to my life. And if you're just so focused on one thing, it's hard to grow and it's hard to do all the things that I want to, but it's that perfection piece of it's progress over perfection for me. And so I always just try to keep progressing instead of being perfect. Honesty and just like being a good person and doing all these little things that just really boil down to just trying to be the best version of yourself and what you have to offer and are able to experience in life. But yeah, that
Yeah.
perfection thing was a struggle.
I want to hear about your marriage. Are you avoiding it? Because I've asked you two
I
times about your marriage and why you went to jail, and you have not answered either of those things. You can say, Aaron, I don't want
well,
to talk about that.
which marriage and which time I went to jail? Just kidding. There's
Oh,
only one marriage, but there is multiple jail.
okay. I want to know with your marriage because addiction and relationships go, if you have an addiction, it's affecting your relationship.
Right.
And how did it affect your relationship? And did that contribute to your divorce, would you say?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not trying to avoid it, either one of those for sure. um I'm pretty sure when I met my ex-wife that I wasn't heavily into it like I had been, but then I got there while I was in my marriage. It was just all kind of the same thing is, the way I hid it from my parents, now I'm hiding it from my wife.
That is so crazy that you just said that. That was kind of an aha moment for me where as teenagers we're experimenting and lots of us were hiding stuff from parents. I continue to tell my mom and dad stories of stuff I did in high school and my mom still gets mad at me like, I trusted you, Erin. How did you lie to me? I just thought I wanted to feel free. Like I wanted to feel free. That was the underlying drive for me in high school with any kind of exploring or curiosity or experimenting. I was looking to just feel free. And I had no problem lying to my parents because I was chasing that feeling. And thank God I didn't get into anything too heavy, but I was chasing something that very easily could have connected with drugs or alcohol in a deeper way than it ever did. Having that dynamic with your parents and then getting married for somebody who does have an addiction, because Ed, I don't think I've ever been addicted to drugs, alcohol, anything. I throw away bottles of wine all the time, actually, because I'll have a glass of wine and then I don't touch it again. That's sad because I like expensive wine too, but and with the drugs, I've just never even thought about doing anything more than what was just right in front of me. So I don't feel like that's something I personally struggle with. I'm trying to think if I hid stuff from my ex-husband, and I just don't think that I did. I was just really just trying to live this Mormon life, and I'm an extreme loyal person, but I know that he hid stuff from his parents growing up, and then he hid a lot from me during our marriage. And I never really connected that that is probably just a pattern and something you're really comfortable with, lying to your parents, and then you can go into a relationship and just keep that up.
It's great to be in a place where you don't have anything to hide, right? Like you were at. Like, I mean, you're thinking back to your marriage and you didn't hide anything because you had nothing to hide. You weren't ashamed of anything, right? And so as an addict, which, the mind is so much different from someone who, like you said, throws away a box of wine. I could never dream of. If some is good, more is better, and I'll get to it later if not, right? And so it's just difference in how you are with substances. But with
Yeah,
an addict in a relationship, speaking for myself, I never wanted to hurt anyone. And so the lie was to protect myself and them because I knew it wasn't what they wanted to hear and I didn't want to tell them. You're not doing it to hurt someone. You feel like you're doing it to help them.
that fact makes me feel more understanding of an addict. And I always say I hate being lied to. Like, that's just like my one thing in relationships. I don't want to be lied to. And I keep getting into these relationships in my past that I was just lied to a lot. Maybe that's just something where I can reframe that and think to them, they were lying because one, they couldn't deal with the truth. And two, they're just trying to keep it so under the radar so they don't have to confront it, where lying is the better option. They could think that lying is to protect me, to protect you, to protect the family. But the lying and addiction, it seems like that perfect storm where it's just all going to blow up if you're not really careful.
You still do have feelings and love this person. And so that's why you're lying to them because you don't want to lose them. But then you can't function without what you're doing. And so it's like this survival mode of you're not doing it to hurt them. You're doing it to help is what you feel like yourself as well as them.
So what's the process been like for you to be where you are, first of all? Was it a final treatment center that you went to? What was that final thing that really did click to work where you're able to live a honest, healthy life now?
I went through rehab twice, the same rehab I went through twice, and I had times of sobriety. I think I was like 18 months, just shy of 18 months the first time, and then I think a year, a little longer than a year the second time. Last time when I feel like it finally all kind of stuck was there was no jail or rehab because I was at a point where if I left again, I was going to go to jail or I was going to die. And so those were just kind of like the realization that I had. And having the parents that I did that had a place where I would rather go through that at a home with help than in jail is where that kind of decision came to. I kind of graduated from therapy and just therapized myself. And I just kind of put my own program together that worked for me and just finally got sick and tired of being sick and tired. And so I had like a definite rock bottom moment where it was just really sad and really ugly and really gruesome. And I had to change everything. It was always about me, and I did whatever I wanted to do and whatever felt good for me. And it came into change to just being the best version of myself and trying my best to where I used to litter and not even give a crap about littering because it was all about me and whatever was the easiest for me. And now I don't even do that. And so I just tried to clean up my life and just be in a way where I was just over it. Like I didn't want to die. I didn't want to go to jail. And the only option was to change. I try to be honest as possible. And these are all things that I learned, but it was like, I always tried to go to the extreme with all of them. So I had to be 100% honest. I had to be 100% perfect. And then I just kind of just wasn't so hard on myself and was just okay with just trying my best.
I don't even know how long you've been sober, Ed.
It's been October 2022 is when
So you're all
that
3.5
that all
years.
happened. And
Congratulations on that. I'm sure every day has been a struggle too. I do know people in your situation that it's something that you never graduate from.
I slowly but surely fixed relationships and things in my life. And I just, got a car and I got a house and I got a job and I just slowly but surely just kept progressing. I'm not willing to lose what I have. And so it's part of what keeps me going is because of the work that I've done and what I've put into my life to have what I am. And I'm not where I want to be and I'm not even close to done yet, but I'm so far away from where I've been. I used to be sick from feeling the feeling of getting sick, and now I'm sick to my stomach of the thoughts of going back. And it took a lot of work and a lot of time and a lot of help, a lot of vulnerability, and it's beautiful. And time does heal. Relationships come back, trust comes back, opportunities come back, and it's never too late. And so I was down and out and broken when I got a job that I feel like really was the cherry on top that changed my life. I worked for a guy who was a personal and financial development kind of guy. And I just jumped in with both feet because I had no other option. And I was given an opportunity. I still have dreams and I still have thoughts and I still have all these things in my life that I'm now able to play the tape forward and realize what happens if and when I make those kind of decisions that I don't want anymore and I want more and I know what I'm capable of and I'm not done and I'm still here for a reason because I shouldn't be. I've seen and done a lot of nasty, ugly things and there's no reason why I should be here. So there's a reason. And so I try to live my life as best as possible and be appreciative of everything that I have and where I'm at.
You are just speaking right now to so many people, Ed. I hope you realize that because you are on a track that so many people didn't get the chance to be able to rebuild these relationships, to be able to completely change your life. There's so many people where the addiction gets to them before there's a way out, and you are so blessed. And I know it takes a lot of work, but I'm so glad that you are here. What do you wish people really understood about addiction?
For me, I wasn't trying to hurt anyone. I wasn't trying to hurt myself. That's something I've learned is that people aren't trying to hurt your feelings. People aren't trying to be rude to you. They're trying to do what's best for them at that moment. Everyone is trying to do what's best for them at that moment. And just because it hurt your feelings, it was still what they felt was the best decision for them to protect their self at that moment. I wish that I didn't have to go through the things that I did, but I'm also okay with it because it's made me who I am today and I love who I am today. And without my past, I wouldn't be who I am today. And so
Amen. 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 We do
there's a
not learn
chance.
anything when life is easy. We don't learn anything when life is easy, but we learn through the muck and the mess. And yours was mucky and messy, Ed,
Yes, it
and more
was.
than most. But think of all of the strength you have now. Think of all of the lessons that you're going to be able to help people. You're so young. You're just barely 40s, and you have a whole half of your life to share your story and give people strength. And I'm not sure if you go to AA or anything like that, but I do believe that support is so important for people in your situation, whether it's getting it from a group or however you get it, but just knowing that you have people in your corner, people that are there to support you. If you could think of one thing that if I had somebody in my family's, a friend who is going through something similar in addiction, what is your advice of how to navigate that? Because I know it can be tricky where you don't know how involved to get. You want to stay out of the drama, but you're worried about it. What can we do to support somebody without enabling them? Because I know it's very easy to cross that line where you are enabling an addict. So, do you have any tips on that?
That's a sensitive subject because, trying to know the right way and then like the addict or the person struggling not receiving what you're trying to do with good intentions. And so, I mean, for me, it really came down to, love them, pray for them. You've got to hold your boundaries. Don't rescue them from consequences. Sometimes consequences become the very thing that saves someone's life. Keeping yourself safe and protective, but also being a safe place for them to come. It's a really kind of fine line, but it's someone that you love and someone you care about. And so you've got to just keep trying your best and loving them and rooting for them and supporting them, but also you have to take care of yourself and you have to not hurt yourself by trying to help them. You've got to be in a place where you can help them.
I'm sure this was so hard on your parents' relationship. And some marriages have a child that go through this and it ruins their marriage, their family, because it is so intense and conflicting and layered, and it affects a lot of people. I would love to get your mom on here. Put it in her ear and I'm going to
I would
manifest
too. I would
it.
too. I would love to hear my mom on this podcast as well. We've have such a great relationship today, and it always hasn't been that way. But the reason it is because I put in a ton of work, but so did she. It was a mutual thing where it can't just be one or the other. The person in life also has to do the work and to understand and to know how to help. And there's work that goes into it. And I've seen my parents do it, and I've their relationship with the ebbs and flows of trying to manage me and help me hurt their relationship. And I'll never forget one time when they visited me in jail over Skype, and I looked at them and I was like, I felt like I aged them. They looked so old to me, and now today they look super young again. But at that time, it was just wearing on everyone so much that it was affecting them, and I could see it. And now, 10
I
years
mean,
later, they look younger than they did then.
you're only as happy as your saddest child. And for them to be sitting on Skype with their child in jail, there's no happiness for them in that moment. So I'm so glad your family has been able to heal and that you both have worked on forgiveness and understanding and knowing that your relationship is worth it. It's hard to go through these things and to forgive and to move forward, to really rebuild that trust. That is the most important thing, and that you guys were
Trust is
able
so
to do
huge.
that. I want to close out, Ed, with things that you know now because of going through this experience. And I want this to be healing for you. This is something that is part of your story, but it is not your story, Ed. You have paid your dues, you have done the work, you have really rebuilt your life. And this is something that I want you to let go of some of this. If there is guilt or shame or anything that you're feeling, like I hope that this outlet can be something where you can really make peace with this, know that your story is helping other people, and let some of these things go because you have a beautiful life ahead of you. And if you let some of this stuff hold you back, you're doing a disservice to yourself. So I really hope that this can be healing for you.
And I really appreciate your help and support into getting me to do this. I've made a lot of bad decisions, but I've also made good decisions. But, your worst decision doesn't have to become your identity. And that's kind of where it all kind of took me, is I felt like that was all I could do and where I was at and just what I did. And so you can change, and your worst decision doesn't have to become your identity. I mean, honesty is a big part of my life. I try to be as honest as possible, and it really just helps me in life to just try to be as honest as I can. It's felt really good to be able to share, hopefully help people become, and feels like kind of what I've gone through has given me a purpose to being able to face what I've done instead of running from it. I do want to help, and I do know where I've been, and I know where am now, and I want nothing more than for those that are hurting to know that it's never too late, and you can change. Time does heal, and relationships do come back. No one's too far gone from a second chance, 100th chance. I mean, I've had so many second chances. It felt like I had expired them all, but I didn't. And I got that last second chance, and I ran with it, and it's really great and beautiful once you fully commit to changing everything that wasn't working in your life.
Honestly, Ed, this has been so good. I think for me, for you, I know for people that are listening right now, it takes a lot of bravery to come on and be this vulnerable. I know that we've been talking about this for several weeks, and it has been something to prepare for you, and your story is impactful, and I am so grateful that you shared it. I know this is an ongoing process. Please know that I am cheering you on, and we are friends forever. And I just think the world of you for going through such hard things that I cannot imagine going through this hard of an experience and how long that it has taken, how many years of your life that this has taken. But now you have a fresh start. You're only 3.5 years in to building your new life, and look how much you've already done. And you're just getting started. And I truly do believe that. And I thank you for coming on. And I hope that this has been good for you too.
It has, Erin, and you've been really great. And I love hearing you say that this is a lifelong friendship because I feel that connection with you as well. And I appreciate your help and your support into getting me here. And I just have loved seeing you do your podcast and grow and learn. And I'm a firm believer that nothing happens in God's world by mistake. And so you and I are supposed to be here on this podcast now, or else we wouldn't be. And so I really appreciate and cherish the friendship that we have. It's great.
Completely agree. Well, no beer for you. Okay. But pie. You can have some
Barbecue.
pie today.
Having a
now
barbecue
I
tonight.
now I kind of feel like a loser for asking if it was pie and beer
Well,
day for you.
you're from
Hello?
Salt Lake. I'm from Utah County, so
I know. Okay.
I can't believe I've
I'm
never heard of that before because it's so
I
catchy
cannot
and
believe that either. I can't believe it. Well, now you
yeah.
know, but only pie
Yep.
for you. Okay, my friend.
Okay. Yes,
Root beer
ma'am.
and pie. Thank you for coming on, Ed. I can't wait to
Thanks for
hear
having me.
from the listeners who this connected with. I love hearing everybody's feedback. So if you have a story out there, if you're listening right now and you resonated with Ed's story and you're thinking, okay, maybe I have a story to tell too. Maybe there's something I've gone through that I've learned through that could help somebody else. Be brave. 5 seconds of bravery is all it takes to shoot me a text, an email, go to laylowpod.com and fill in the form if you're interested in coming on the podcast. And let's just talk it through because like Ed, we've been talking about this for weeks and I told him we can do this and you have a story to tell. And being a little brave right now is going to do a lot of healing. And I think that we had that today. So thank you, Ed. You are the best. And thank you everybody for laying low with us. We'll see you next time.